So either way, we are very excited to welcome you all today. And I know that many of you might be watching this later. So even still, we appreciate your time. So with that being said, just a quick, a few housekeeping things. Roughly this session is going to be about an hour. We understand that your time is very valuable, especially these days. And so we want to be courteous to that. But on the same token, want to make sure that we're utilizing this time as best as we possibly can to provide you with the information that you need about this program, and just ultimately to deep dive into any questions that you guys may have. We, again, understand that your schedule is busy probably. And so if for any reason you have to leave early due to an unforeseen event, don't worry, you will get a recording here in the next few days with this session for you to watch later. Or if you're able to stay the whole time just to be able to listen back to us again, I know our voices are going to be just fantastic to listen to. We are going to, like I said, really try to deep dive into this program as much as we possibly can with our guest speakers. But we know that there's going to be some questions that you guys have. And so please, please, please feel free to utilize our Q&A feature. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen. And we will certainly do our best to try to get to all of those questions. If for any reason there is a question that we do not get addressed about today, whether it be about admissions, financial aid, and things that may not necessarily pertain to this program, feel free to contact our UOnline admissions office. You can speak with an advisor, whether it be call, email, chat, whatever is better for you. We'd love to accommodate as best as we can. So without further ado, I want to introduce our special guest speakers from our Department of Finance. We have two incredible faculty members with us. I have Professor Timothy Birch and Professor Michael First here with us. And gentlemen, again, do sincerely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to speak with us. They could hear from me all day long, but you guys are our superstars. So certainly want to turn it over to you guys. Timothy, or excuse me, Professor Birch, I'll turn it over to you. And then we'll follow with Professor First. If you guys just want to share a little bit about who you are, how you ended up at the U, and what your current position is, that would be fantastic.
Sure. So the pressure's on because I think I heard incredible panelists in there.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Trying to figure out who else was here with us today besides me. So, I'm Professor Birch. I have been here since 1997. Graduated with my PhD from University of Michigan, but my wife is a South Florida native, so was really thrilled to be able to start my academic career here, and it's just been a great experience. And my particular fit within this program is that I teach the first course, which is kind of like an intro to finance, if you will. We also even talk a little bit about some economics and some accounting. And I actually designed the first fully online course ever taught at the university. And that was about 6 years or so ago. So maybe it was 7 years ago. I might be losing count. So the course has been refined over time, and just a great experience for me. I'm in the middle of teaching it right now. In fact, it's a lot of fun to see students learn and grow and become excited about finance. Michael, turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Michael First, and I've been at the University of Miami since fall of 1998. Time flies. I was actually 2 years behind Tim at the University of Michigan, and I came here directly from there as well. I have been involved in teaching online now for, I don't know, almost as long as Tim has, as we've developed this online program. And like him, I've been a director of the Master of Science in Finance program on campus and online. And essentially we've done, we've developed the program, kept it vital, and been quite engaged and involved as we both are to this very day. In the program, I teach two classes. They're team taught classes. The first one I teach is intermediate corporate finance and asset pricing, investments. And I co-teach that with Professor Korniatis. It's an interesting class. It basically it's a synthetic class in that it brings two areas together that are related but rarely show up in a curriculum. The first course deals with all the major corporate finance issues: capital structure, dividend policy, investment decisions. But part of it is also a project that's shared with the second part of the course in investments. And so that part of the course involves fundamental analysis, using our new knowledge of corporations and looking at key performance metrics, both within an industry and in general, and learning how to basically identify, winning firms in particular industries. That's the first part of the project, and that's what my students do when they're directly with me. And then I pass them on over to Professor Corniatis, who then he teaches them all about investments, about portfolio theory. And essentially what happens is these students with their industry expertise then choose the winning stocks based on fundamental analysis, and then optimize their holdings in portfolios. So it's highly applied, very integrative, very synthetic between these two fields that have an overlap that normally you're not going to see, right? You definitely don't see that in a traditional on-campus class. And the second class I teach is International Finance and Valuation. I co-teach that as well. I'll be teaching that with Professor Sue. And the first half deals with international finance, anything that deals with exchange rate dynamics, cross-border investment, anything that impacts your ability to invest abroad. And that then is passed on to Professor Sue, who talks about valuation and evaluation of a cross-border investment, right? This is for a firm in Brazil. And so what you're essentially doing is applying your knowledge of international finance and in a setting of then valuing a particular business. Again, highly applied class. I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you both, diving into, what brought you to the U, and love that both of you came from the University of Michigan. I know that the Miami heat here literally is probably much, much warmer than what you would experience at the University of Michigan. So that is great. I do have a quick question. Let's dive into the curriculum of the program. I think that, so many of the students that I get to work with are full-time working adults. And so they have a lot of questions about how this program is going to be set up specifically for them, as they're working, as they're juggling families. Can you guys speak into a little bit about this setup and how we've designed it specifically for those students?
Sure. So the program is really flexible. So I've had students. Of course, we have a fair amount of students that are South Florida, and then you get students from the Northeast. Then we have students from out West. I've even had students before that are on a Navy ship out at sea someplace, Europe, et cetera. So it's the student mix is really global. So that kind of gives you some indication that the program has to be flexible to deal with different time zones and so forth. So it's fairly self-paced with deadlines in a given week, and all the weeks will fall into a particular pattern. So there'll be, once you get going in a particular course, you'll very quickly get the hang of, okay, for this course, there's this kind of assignment, and that's due every Tuesday, and then there's this sort of assignment that's due every Friday, or what have you, and then I have to take the quiz by this particular point in time. Students are allowed to finish these assignments a bit early, to accommodate travel schedules and so forth. So it's very, very structured, which I think helps tremendously, because when people are working full time, and in many cases we also have students that are juggling family obligations as well. That structure really helps to help everybody stay organized. So in my particular case, it's a mix of assignments where you are reading through material, you're watching some videos that I've posted, I'll be working through problems and so forth. And then we have office hours. And if you can make office hours, great. If you can't, you can email questions ahead of time, or in some cases, I'll just help you through email. Send me an email and I'll be able to help you get over the hump. So my philosophy is to try to be available and to try to help you get past the little hang-up that you might be having on something so that you can continue to make progress. And office hours are recorded in my course and posted for later consumption. So sometimes students can't make those office hour sessions, but they'll watch them the next day, that sort of thing. I don't know if you have something to add, Michael, or if you run your course
I could amplify
differently.
a few points, I guess. We have students with a broad range of responsibilities. We have students that are like analysts in treasury departments of major companies. We had an airline pilot from a major airline. We've had captains in the Army. I mean, deployed captains in the Army that wanted to basically talk to me earlier in the week because they had an actual maneuver they needed to go on. So they have been able to, do the program at the same time with having very demanding jobs, deployments, flying planes, working in as treasury analysts. So the program is very doable. All right, it's very doable. And the materials, as Tim mentioned, the materials, if you're really strapped for time, are all available asynchronously, at your leisure, to be able to then work in your schedule on your time. And as well, the faculty are available to meet with you live about questions you may have as well. So it's a nice hybrid arrangement.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, Michael, but we pretty recently, even going through the program, we had an emergency room doctor.
Yes.
And you know what the kind of schedules that they have. So, yeah.
Wow.
Now, that said, a general comment is that it is a rigorous program and it does take time. So you can find programs out there that probably take you a couple of hours a week or something like that, and you're going to spend a lot of money and not really learn anything. And our program is definitely not that. So it's a rigorous program. It takes careful scheduling of your time, and people will have to make that adjustment. It usually takes a week or two for people to sort of figure out, okay, for my life, where am I going to find the time that it's going to take? And then, it's like anything else. You get into it, what you put out of it, and so this program will require you to take things seriously because our job is to help you at the end of the day build that human capital that's really going to help you advance in your career. So that's really, really important to us.
Absolutely. And Professor Birch, you mentioned something earlier. You said structured flexibility, and I really, really like that. And we say all the time, this program is very flexible, but I think you hit the nail right on the head with the structure is definitely needed. And so I've got these assignments for work. I've got this for my kids. How do I fit this in? But knowing at the beginning of each week, exactly what is coming, and you have the flexibility to schedule yourself around it. But having that structure in place, I'm sure that's a huge game changer for our online students and, helping them be successful in the classroom, but especially during those first few weeks of getting acclimated to what is expected of them as a student. Yep. Fantastic. Well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit more and focus more on the specific courses. And you guys have definitely dove into a little bit of the courses that you specifically teach, but what type of skills and learnings are students that complete our program, what are they going to leave with and be equipped with throughout this program?
Yeah, so I guess I can get started, and I'm sure Mike will pick it up. I think it's a little bit course specific, probably. My course is foundational. So once you get through my course, you're really setting the stage to be able to get everything you need out of the courses that follow. But we do get into some really practical applications, and so that's one of the things that I try to do, so the students understand. Okay, we're seeing something and it looks maybe kind of abstract, sort of theoretical, and then it's like, oh, wow, here's a problem, and it's totally real world, So your corporation working in a financial planning department, the capital budgeting department, and you've got these different projects, you've got a limited amount of capital. How do you decide, which project makes the most sense, right? There are personal finance issues that come up, which are in my course, which are kind of fun. So, do you want to potentially lease a car? Well, should you lease it? or should you borrow money from a bank and buy that car? How do you do that kind of analysis with that type of situation? We talk about interest rates a little bit in the economy, and that's really fun because we hear all the time, well, the Fed is doing this, it's signaling that, and here's how something called the yield curve is responding. Risk-free rates in the economy, which kind of set the stage for the entire financial part of our economy. What are these risk-free rates doing? And people will talk about how these different rates, different levels of interest rates versus different maturities, how they can signal for us maybe where the macroeconomy is going. Might we be headed to a recession, or is the economy expected to grow, and so forth. So, we learned the theory, but then I actually show you some graphs of the real world data and help you understand how do I make sense out of this, what's going on in the real world. So it's really exciting for me, and I think for the students, because I hear it in the office hours. People will make those comments that, wow, this is great because I'm able to understand what's going on now with this part of my company. I didn't understand that before, or I saw this in the financial press, and now I can make some sense of it. So it's practical in that sense of finding those real world applications, and to help you understand why are we learning this material. It's really nice.
So, Tim basically puts down some incredible foundations in the field that the rest of the classes then build upon and rely upon. I've mentioned the two other classes that I teach. Let me mention a few others for some other instructors. I think a way to look at it is we have a comprehensive program. We have a course, Finance 618, that deals with market microstructure. You learn about the trading of stocks, what drives prices, how do we statistically analyze that behavior. So again, the trading of stocks is critical for so many people, both on a personal and professional level. We also have a course that deals with financial derivatives. So you're going to learn about option pricing. You're going to learn about futures. You're also going to learn about how to model them and how to do financial modeling as well, which is central to most financial analysis. There's a course that then builds on the one I mentioned, Finance 613, with both corporate and portfolio theory in it with investments. There's an advanced portfolio course. It talks about construction of sophisticated portfolios, which could be great preparation if you're working in, if you're interested in working for a mutual fund company, working for a hedge fund. It's a great background. Built in also to that course is a discussion of alternative investments, right? Investments in, say, bonds that have a conversion feature into equity. How do you think about it, making investment decisions that way? How do you build that into your portfolio? One of the strengths of Miami is behavioral finance. We have several faculty members that are leading in the area of behavioral finance, which is basically where we bring in the psychological and cultural realities into the pricing of stocks and the movement of prices and how they respond to information. And we have a class focused on just behavioral finance. That's Finance 615. It's a financial decision-making theory that basically talks about what drives prices beyond sort of the rationality. What are the human factors? And then presents opportunities to exploit them, right, for profit, because they're not rational. If you can get ahead of them, there's a profit-making opportunity. So that's an element of that course, and it's a strength of Miami. And we also have an applied corporate finance course, Finance 616. Like the name implies, it's very real world. It's very real live cases. I mean, for example, during the pandemic meltdown, there's a case in there that dealt just directly with what most firms are dealing with at that time: declining cash flows, inability to make payroll payments, and how do you financially plan for your cash flow shortfalls, and how do you access cash at that point in time. So comprehensive, synthetic, cross-disciplinary, and highly applied really describes most of our classes.
Fantastic. And I so love that both of you mentioned it's real world issues that you're discussing in the classroom. And, that of course is just only going to equip them even better, whether it be in their current roles or hopefully the roles that they'll obtain upon completion of the degree or even while they're in the program. So appreciate you both mentioning that, as that is really a big question that we get asked on a daily basis. Before we move on to our next question, we did have a question come in through the Q&A. It is from an anonymous attendee, and they asked, does a student at the end of the master's have access to OPT?
If they're not, I'll say what I feel confident about and then refer them to the International Scholar and Student Services Organization to get the precise result. If the student is not in the country, then they're not going to qualify as an international student to be able to. OPT is basically the ability to work after you've graduated. If you're not in the country, because it's an online program, if you're abroad, then you're not going to qualify for OPT. I feel confident in saying that, but the ISSS office would be able to answer those questions in more detail than you'd really want them answered.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I would
go
echo
ahead.
that. I think it's complicated in online programs, so you want to check that out if that's important to you.
Mhm. Thank you. I appreciate you both answering that. And to reiterate, there is a Q&A feature. So as we're going through this information, I'm sure you guys will have questions. Please feel free to send us any questions that you have, especially for these gentlemen. Moving forward, let's talk a little bit about the program and just the incredible alumni network that we have. I mean, the U is definitely its own brand, known all across the country and even world. Can you share a little bit more, just, what type of edge our students have, coming from the U and that university name that is well known, but also as they're considering many online programs, as online education is much more prevalent these days, especially because of the pandemic.
So
Right.
I think
Go ahead, Tim.
I'll start on this. Yeah, so I think Michael can maybe speak a little bit to the alumni connection part of this, but in terms of the competitive edge, I think one of the most important and unique things about our program is the faculty that teach in the program. So there are a lot of online programs where a department or a school sits down, they choose some faculty director to run a program, develop a program, and then they go out and they get a bunch of part-time faculty that they recruit to teach in the program. Our program is not like that at all. So when we decided to develop this program, it was a departmental decision, and our regular full-time faculty embraced this idea that, yes, let's do this and let's do it the right way. Let's give our students the same rigorous cutting edge material that we give our on-campus students, and we're going to teach in the program. So all of the faculty that you have teaching this program are regular full-time faculty that teach in our on-campus programs. And we have an amazing faculty, faculty from all over the world. We have faculty from India, we have faculty from China, we have faculty from various parts of Europe. It's a very global, international faculty trained at the best universities. We've got people with degrees, of course, you heard Michigan. We've got people with degrees, their PhDs from Berkeley, from Yale, Cornell, Wharton, I mean, you name it, so trained at the best schools. And, and you get a little bit different flavor, I think, when you're trained at this school versus that school, but then we're all here together collaborating on the program. And our faculty also has a lot of good work experience. I used to work in a global consulting firm, so did Professor First. We have somebody that used to work in the fixed income markets. We have somebody that used to work with the Federal Reserve, and they're as an economist, so we really bring a good mix of I think faculty that has cutting edge training, great work experience, so that we can relate and understand a bit as to what you're dealing with in your professional lives, and then we're all research active as well, so we're seeing, in some cases, creating the cutting edge knowledge, and certainly through our work on our own research, we're also seeing what else is going on out there. So we're able to bring things into the classroom and into the discussion before they make it into the textbooks. So I think, our faculty really make our program unique and super competitive in terms of the training that you get.
Absolutely.
And I can, amplify even more areas of practical experience. We have another faculty member who used to work for a treasury with a global bank. We have another one that is involved with portfolio management before going into academia. So we've got a lot of real world experience. Moreover, some faculty are also maintain their professional links with practice by engaging in consulting. We have one faculty member that's assisted in global asset allocation strategies. We have experts, economic experts doing securities litigation. So they're very connected with practice both before and during their time at the university. So it's really exceptional to have this same program essentially when it comes with respect to online delivery versus delivery in person. It's the same people. So I think that adds an incredible amount of credibility to our program and differentiates it from many. With regards to the connection to the alumni network, I think the number is something like 180,000 is what I read, 180,000 alumni from the university. And the Career Services Office, the Topple Career Services Office, has recently, just very recently, instituted this brand new system called Cane to Cane, which allows students to connect with alumni for a whole set of different possible reasons, to talk about the economy, to talk about careers, to talk about particular jobs, to be mentored and coached along the way. And so this new system then is going to allow us to leverage the huge resource we have in our alumni with, well-placed, who have well-placed positions that can provide incredible advice. And again, accentuate this applied real-world implementable knowledge.
And let me just, if you don't mind, Elizabeth, I'd like to see there's another Q&A that's posted. So we want to make sure we get to all of those, and I can take that one. So I'll just read it. It says, I'm coming into this program with only a bachelor's in psychology. Will the material be easily understood for those who do not have a background in finance? So the answer to that is a qualified yes. I mean, you put the word easily. What I would say is that people that have finance experience coming in, of course, naturally, they're going to have more familiarity with some of the terminology and concepts as compared to somebody that doesn't have that exposure to finance. But we're very aware that we have students just like you in the program. There are some students that work in finance and they're trying to progress and build their knowledge. And then we have other people that are looking for a career shift and they've never taken any sort of course in finance. So we're very cognizant of that. And one difference between an online program versus an on-campus program is that we don't have all of this live class time together. When we're in a classroom and we're saying something, we can kind of see whether people are nodding their heads or whether somebody has a confused look on their face, right? And then we know, oh, we need to rephrase that, or we need to say that in a little bit different way to help them learn. We don't have that opportunity in an online program, right? So that's a difference. And it's helped us to be able to revise and develop our materials in such a way as to avoid those types of confusions all the time, because you understand, I've got to get this right. And the notes that I'm preparing, the materials that I'm putting out to somebody, they have to be very clear. They have to be organized, and they have to be very clear and easy for them to pick up that knowledge on their own without me, being there live with them as much. So the materials, I think, are designed in such a way as to accommodate people that don't have that exposure in finance, because it's really a necessity, for the program to be successful for those students. And then, of course, we are there through email, through office hours, if you can make office hours. But if not, email is always there. And I do get those questions occasionally. Can you help me understand this on page 3? And we're able to help you with those kinds of things that come up. So it might take a little more effort on your part because of you not having the same maybe background as some people do, but you're not alone. And the program is definitely designed that you're able to be successful.
Tim's course, I mean, speaking because I'm a little downstream of it, Tim's course is very good at sort of leveling the playing field and bringing everybody to the capabilities to then take the later classes. He does an excellent job in that. And we're very accustomed to having students that don't have undergraduate finance degrees or undergrad business degrees. And in some ways, that perspective is going to be a strength for you professionally. And the other thing I might mention too is that I think UOnline encourages students to take the online MBA math program, and that's a way to refresh your skills. Just to refresh your skills. And I think there's multiple areas you can choose from, and maybe just the ones that you feel you need most help on would prepare you. So you're fresh, maybe some algebra skills or something like that you can refresh. So you're more current. Everything's fresher in your mind. I think that would be another way to prepare as well. But we're very accustomed to having students from all sorts of backgrounds come into the program and succeed.
So another Q&A that I see here, how fluent does someone need to be in Excel? So in the first course, not at all. No fluency in Excel. I don't use Excel in the first course on purpose, because I don't want to assume a lot of technical skills coming in to the first course, where we're really more focused on the fundamental concepts and building all the foundations, that you're going to need. But then there are later courses that do start to use Excel. So I think the program kind of takes you along. Eventually you get some financial modeling and a little more of a course that's really focused in Excel, but you've been doing some Excel in bits and pieces along the way. So it's sort of a step-by-step process. And, I haven't sat down and looked carefully at the Excel content of each and every course, but we've not heard that that's been a problem for anybody. I do think by the time that you are finishing with the program, you will have built up some pretty strong Excel skills. So I think you can expect that, but we don't assume that you have a lot of advanced Excel knowledge, or any for that matter, coming into the program. And you do have some little breaks in the program as well. So that's always a good opportunity for you to realize that, oh, maybe I should brush up on this or that. This would really be helpful to me. And there's a lot of great, online sources that are free even, where you can help to increase your skill set if you feel like you need it.
I could probably add a little bit about Excel. So in the third course, which is the first one that I teach, in the corporate finance area, it's where at that point we're encouraging you to start exploring Excel. You don't have to use it. You can get through just fine without using Excel, but we encourage you to solve problems with Excel. And we have links to basic tutorials, and we also have some very, very detailed tutorials that I've created that help you with corporate finance decisions using Excel. Again, those are optional, but they're really a good way to start becoming more familiar with Excel. Now, in the second part of that course, again, I'm talking about Finance 613, applied intermediate corporate finance and investments. And in the second investments part, Excel's used, but it's a very step-by-step how-to approach to Excel. So it's not like, there's this huge gap between, what you've done before, what you know, and what you now need to know. No, we're very familiar with the fact that students are learning Excel. So it's a stepwise process with great instructions along the way. And down the road, we also have a course in Excel itself, and a course that basically teaches you how to use a whole set of additional more advanced functions in Excel. So I think it's slow, it's paced, it's learnable, it's doable. Starts, with detailed instructions or even optional material at first, and then detailed instructions, and it seems to work well. It seems to work very, very well.
That is fantastic. I appreciate you both answering those questions. And again, students, send any questions you have. This is exactly what we are here for today. And if I may, just in short, just kind of summarize what you guys have mentioned. Coming into the program, regardless of your background, I think a huge incentive is, yes, you are working with the same incredible faculty who work with our on-campus students. You're getting that same exposure, but we do intentionally try to keep our classrooms small so that if you have questions or concerns, you have the freedom to be able to reach out, and you're not necessarily fighting with hundreds of other students to get their questions answered. And so I think that is just the biggest incentive for our students, is the intentionality that they get in the classroom, along with that structured flexibility that we mentioned earlier. So appreciate you diving into that. And to move forward with our next question is, the finance industry is definitely ripe for disruption and digital revolution, and we've definitely seen that over the past few years. And so how does our Masters of Finance program equip students with that practical knowledge about emerging technologies and just industry trends?
Our program is constantly renewing itself, building on incorporating new events, new things into it. And so the fintech revolution, cryptocurrency revolution, those things are being integrated into the program as they evolve. For example, in international finance, I'm planning on now integrating cryptocurrencies directly into it, because it's become such a important consideration in international finance. I mean, El Salvador now has Bitcoin as its legal tender, and so consequently, we need to build in cryptocurrencies into international finance. This revolution, which we might call it, certainly is a disruptive change. It doesn't actually change the what we have to do in finance. It just makes it more complicated and provides opportunities to do it better. So it really needs to be part of many classes or many things as we go forward. It isn't essentially just a class; it's a new way of thinking, and our program evolves. Right now, we're redoing two classes, right? That then are basically current and updated and integrate the latest changes in technology. Such as we've seen of late. So, and again, I can just speak really for my class. Cryptocurrencies has become central to international finance, so they're now integrated.
Absolutely. And I guess kind of going, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I think this is one of the nice things about having faculty that, we see the research, we have our feelers out there in the real world. We're also teaching on campus, so we see what's going on and we respond to it. We're not people that are maybe retired from some career. Now we're just sort of checking a box and having a little bit of fun teaching a course. We live and breathe finance. It's what we're interested in. We're up reading the financial press all the time and talking with people that are working in the industry and so forth. So it comes natural to us, I think, to try to keep everything current.
I'm sure, and that's huge. And I guess kind of tailoring off of that, with so much change that has happened in the industry, especially over the past year and a half to 2 years with the pandemic, what do you foresee will be the biggest opportunities for growth and advancement, for the graduates in our program?
I would say that the biggest challenge is to keep pace, to keep the financial analyst in a company that's current, that's up to date, is an incredibly valuable resource. I mean, and I've read that the growth rate of these financial analyst type roles that bring in new abilities to analyze problems in an ever increasingly complex world, that's a big growth area. That's a broadly speaking growth area where you can basically integrate into the business and explain to those in the business what the current changes in the financial markets and global economy, what that means for that particular business. I've read growth rates in that sort of activity ranging over 20% per year. And so that's one major area where you can really bring in state-of-the-art analysis and understanding of markets and the economy to the business, being able to connect. Because businesses, you can imagine, are overwhelmed with change. The second area of growth deals with individuals, and that I see. As the world becomes more and more complex, it becomes more and more difficult for the individual to make investment decisions. So the financial planner is another huge area of growth going forward. I've seen numbers of over 30% growth opportunities in that area because the world's so complicated. They need someone to help them explain how to make good investment decisions. It's absolutely overwhelming. And if you're able to do it, you have a tool, a skill set that's in high demand. Those would be the two biggest areas, because those are the areas that they're both broad and general, but then perhaps not current, and they need fresh blood, so to speak.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to add one other thing to this, which I think touches on really all areas of finance and also one of the strengths of our department, and that's the behavioral finance area.
Yeah.
Because I see and I hear, from colleagues, from friends that are out there working in the industry, particularly the wealth management industry, financial planning, and so forth. Companies are starting to want their advisors and professionals to understand behavioral finance, to understand the psychology of the investor. Because if you can't foresee the mistakes and tendencies that are going to lead people to make bad decisions, then it's hard to prevent them from taking place, right? And as mentioned before, we have expertise here on the faculty in that area, and you actually have a course in behavioral finance in the program to help you make sense of the way that people make decisions in real life. So if you take a look at finance 30, 40 years ago, the assumptions were a little bit out of control towards the side of, well, people are like computers and they're always going to make totally rational decisions. And that's just not realistic. And finance now on the academic side has really been revolutionized by this greater acceptance of understanding that people do not behave like computers. So I think getting the exposure in a very formal, structured sense of what are all these different issues that come up when we think about making decisions in the real world, that we're not behaving like computers. I think that's really important, regardless of the area in finance that you're going into. Corporate finance managers, they're also subject to certain biases and tendencies and so forth. So I think that's a really nice thing about our program.
Oh, absolutely. And I can imagine our student earlier that had a question about psychology and if that would, be a negative factor coming in. I'm sure their psychology background would probably be very beneficial going into that behavioral finance class for sure. So I, again, appreciate you guys diving into that. And as we're coming to a close for our meeting, again, please send us questions. And we actually have one. So let me ask this real quick. How does this program rank among other similar programs across the country?
I've seen several rankings. We're often in the top 10, but the rankings in the online area, they're still emerging. I don't get too excited if they're really high. I don't get too sad if they're low, because the quality of the surveys, it's still an emerging area for online finance. And so commonly, though, we're ranked, the rankings I've seen have us in I think 10th, but then I look at the ones ahead of us and I say to myself, no, you're not. So they don't have an underlying logic to them that says, where I look at the rankings and say, oh yeah, they're really good, and they're not so good, and the numbers correspond to that. I don't see that, so I don't get too excited about the rankings. But we're almost always in the rankings, so we have a profile. It's just I don't think the ranking system is quite up to the speed it is, say, for the on-campus MBA programs, which are well established.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it sort of depends on which rankings that you look at, and you can get kind of wrapped up in all this even with on-campus programs, and I think sometimes we tend to put too much emphasis on just a ranking, and then you sort of dig into it and you see, oh, this ranking system puts a lot of weight on this factor, and that's not important to me at all, right? So I think it's important to think about a holistic way of evaluating programs, and you can take a program, let's say not in finance necessarily, to be more general than that. You can go and you can find something online that's offered by some university that is, in the top 5 in the world or something like this, right? But then you get into the program and it's like, wow, they're just kind of taking people's money, and these people are not interacting with their normal faculty. It's not a rigorous program at all. They're not really building human capital. So great, you took something at some world famous top 5 university, but how is it really going to help you to advance your career? So the thing that I am confident about is that you're getting excellent training by excellent faculty in this program. We take it very seriously. It's our department's program. So we have autonomy over what's in the program and how the program is delivered, and we really value our reputational capital quite a bit, and we want students to come out of here feeling like they're well trained and they've had a great experience. And that's one of the most satisfying things for me, is to hear from students when they graduate, because I haven't heard from them in a while, because I have the very first course with them, and at the end, the comments that we get about, wow, that was a lot of work, wow, it flew by so fast, I can't believe it's over, and I cannot believe how much I learned. People are really surprised at just how much human capital they build. So it's very rewarding for us, those of us that teach in this program.
Mm-hmm. And if I may add something as well, I think just from a personal perspective, yes, you can look at rankings, but I had the unique opportunity, I should say, because of COVID, before COVID days, with students that were getting ready to graduate from our online programs, we were able to have a special reception. And, these students were online students, and you wouldn't have thought that they would come in, I assumed they would do their own thing, they would leave. But these students had such a genuine connection with our faculty and their peers because of the intentionality of the classroom. And that's not something that can be ranked. It's definitely an experiential, thing. And so my advice to students, just from an admissions perspective, is to ask the questions that you are specifically looking for in a program that is a make it or break it for you. And that's how you'll best decide if a program is going to be a fit for you, not necessarily the rankings that you might see online somewhere.
Yeah,
but
and it's,
go ahead.
I think just to add one thing to that, I think one question that should come up for you with some of these programs is to find out, well, how much interaction do I really get with your regular full-time faculty? Because that is something I think that's fairly unique in our program. So you may have a school tell you, oh yes, our courses are taught by our best faculty. But then really what it is that some materials and a couple of videos are recorded, and then your interaction is with some hired person that really doesn't know too much of what they're talking about, because they're trying to teach this course, to 300-400 students at the time. You're not really getting that one-on-one interaction with the actual faculty. So that is, when you're searching for programs, I think that's an important thing to pay attention to.
Absolutely. And I was just going to mention that we had a student all the way from El Salvador in our meeting today, which just goes to show the incredible opportunities to be able to connect with individuals from all over the world within an online platform. So appreciate everyone joining us today from all parts of the world. But again, as we're winding down, I do have just one final question for you both, and it is really more from an admissions perspective. As you know, our early admissions deadline is coming up on November 8th, and so I wanted to ask you guys, for these students as they're applying, is there something specific that you're looking for in a student when it comes to acceptance, and how can they, prepare now to try to be in our program?
So I think for me, and this is probably hard to quantify, I guess, and maybe it's hard to measure, but I think a true eagerness to learn, to actually learn the material and to build the human capital, and to put in that investment, because it's a joint process. It's faculty and it's you working together to build the skills that you need to go out there and have a successful career. So a degree, it gets you so far, and it may open a door or two. But I always like to tell students that at the end of the day, 10 years later, your success is not going to be determined at that point by that particular degree or that particular, some particular course. It's going to be, what do you know how to do? What are the skills that you've built? What's your work ethic, your attitude, those types of things. So I think the right mindset coming into a program is really important, that you understand that you're embarking on a process to launch your career in the direction or at the trajectory that you would really like. And it's not just going through to try to check boxes and that sort of approach. So those are the students that I most enjoy having are the ones that have that attitude of, I really want to learn and develop a deep understanding of what's going on. And most of our students are that way. I don't think any admissions process you're going to have 100% success with that. You're always going to find some students that are just looking to check the box and get the degree. But ultimately, I don't think they're successful, and I think they find the program more difficult because of the rigor. So maybe not the answer you might have expected, but that would be my perspective on it.
Oh, that's a fantastic perspective. Thank you.
I would just, in a way, I would just amplify that. Really, what's the important factor is the applicant's ability to benefit, utilize, and ultimately in their career thrive from the material that they would learn in the program. Really, how are they able to then really benefit? Are they dedicated? Are they committed? Are they, are they going to do well actually in the program? Are they committed to it? Do they? That's a clear indicator of someone who's like a great candidate.
For sure. I appreciate that insight. And I try to tell students the same thing, life is absolutely what you make it, in the same way this program is too. So the way you show up, the way you interact, and how you make the decision to reach out to your faculty, that is what's going to determine how you feel about the program at the end of the day, how successful you might be inside or outside the classroom. And so just to make that intentional decision, day one, I'm going to crush this program and I'm going to rub as many shoulders of my faculty as I can, because they do have such incredible backgrounds and knowledge to be able to share. So I appreciate both of those insights, and that's exactly what we needed to hear today. As we're wrapping up, students, again, our early admissions deadline is Monday, November 8th, which is less than a month away. I cannot believe that. Spots are limited. Again, we do like to keep our classes small so that you have that intentional perspective from these incredible faculty members. And so apply early. If you have questions about how to start that process, again, feel free to contact our advising team and we'd be more than happy to speak with you further. But to make that process a little bit easier for you guys, just by attending today, you have qualified for our $300 deposit fee waiver code, and that is something that we would get locked in for you upon acceptance into the program should you choose to accept your offer. And of course, we hope that you would do so. Again, if you have any questions, let us know. But gentlemen, I do just want to sincerely appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to speak with us today. I know you mentioned earlier you are working with both our on-campus and online students. So the fact that you found an hour out of your busy schedule just to speak with us and share a little bit more about the program from your own perspectives, that screams volumes in my eyes, just to the type of intentionality that our students have. So again, so appreciate both of you for joining us today.
Very welcome.
My pleasure.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, again, we are done for the day. This video will be emailed to you here in the next few days. So if there's anything you want to refresh on, let us know. Otherwise, again, we appreciate your time and hope everyone has a great rest of your Monday. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.